Thanks for joining us this week on the show. I am so happy to be back with you for a personal conversation with you about how we can manage to stay ahead of the curve when stress is coming in from all sides. If you feel lately like you've just been putting out fires, if you feel run ragged, if you feel like you're running on empty, this episode, my friends, is for you. I'm sharing some powerful tools and techniques, some inspiration to help you shift out of reactivity and into a more mindful, responsive mode so that we can cultivate resilience and be more present and centered in the face of stress. So happy to have you with me. Enjoy the show.
It's time to flip the script on stress and learn how to thrive today and throughout your days. Join me for inspiration and interviews with folks who are shining their light in the world in the areas of positive mindset, health, and well-being. I'm your host, Susi Vine. Let's get happified.
Welcome back. I am so happy to have you with me this week for a personal conversation here on Happified. I think it's time to sit down and have a little chat. I'm hearing from a lot of folks recently, and I can certainly relate myself. And maybe you are one of us feeling like you are running on steam, close to running on empty, and really in reaction mode. If you feel like all you've been able to do is barely keep up and manage to put out fires before they escalate into real crisis situations, please know that you're not alone. And so today, this episode is dedicated to you. While you're in the midst of your busy life, while you're on the road or puttering about the house, taking care of that endless list of things that are waiting for you there, listen in and take what serves you. And I hope this provides some inspiration and some ideas to help you lighten your load and shift from reactivity into responding with more calm, more centeredness, and more resilience for what life is serving up for you lately. So if you have been feeling like I have, like the folks I've been talking with, like you're stretched thin, like there's not enough of you to go around, but those requests and even demands keep on coming in and claiming your attention, your energy, all of your resources, understand that we are in the midst of a hectic time, the end of summer and all of that energy of the season. Now we're settling back into school schedules, whether or not you have children. I find it impacts my life having not sent kids off to school, but it's still a real energetic shift. Hunkering down for fall, preparing for winter, collecting the harvest of this season, right? There's real seasonal and energetic changes that we navigate. And this has been a very hectic and frenetic summer. So take a breath and let's take a look at how you can feel better resourced and restored to meet what is coming your way. I have been hearing from a good friend recently on multiple occasions. Even though I know she's devoted to healthy eating, nourishing foods for her family, she's self-employed, which means there are a lot of demands on her attention and energy, from overseeing the education of her kiddos to managing different clients and fielding everything that is coming in her way. It has been nonstop, and she's feeling like she's kind of at the end of the rope here. So how can we reclaim a little bit of this energy, time, and feel more balanced and able to respond to what life is serving up? Well, like I said, I happen to know this person well and know that she has good tools. And so sometimes reminders are necessary because we are so single track focus on what is coming up, what is demanding our attention, and it's easy to lose track of the things that work for us. I'm going to dig in through the course of this episode to some of those practices that might seem simple but are powerfully effective at helping you to resolve stress so that you can restore your resilience. So let me know if you can relate. I'd love to hear from you if you're catching this video on YouTube. If you're listening it on Spotify, now you can comment on this particular episode. And always, I invite your feedback, your questions over on my website at happifiedlife.com, where you can always find the latest episode available for you there. So let's first take a look at what is this? What am I talking about? What is reaction mode and how is it really different from responding? So this is how I differentiate these two actions. When we are faced with a situation, when we are in the midst of something, a conversation, a project, a goal, when life just keeps on serving it up, I tend to see people either fall into reactivity, where there is an inciting incident and there is a reaction. And because we're feeling stressed, it's hectic, we don't have the time, we're running short on fuel, we're running on empty, we slip into that reactive mode where we might say something without thinking, we might be shorter or sharper than we intend to, we might forget how many resources we have available to us. On the other end of the spectrum is responding, having more presence and awareness in how we respond to a situation, and having a lot more control in the outcome because we're able to find that opportunity to have perspective, to get that bird's eye view, perhaps understand where people are coming from or how this situation developed so that we can see how we want to move through it. So maybe you can identify with feeling very reactive lately, as my friend keeps putting it, putting out fires all the time. How can we pivot and change that so that we can be more balanced and calm and mindful in our response? What are some common signs? Recognizing is a powerful skill that we can develop. Often, when we're in the heat of the moment and we're not giving ourselves that time, it can be difficult. So, the more perspective we're able to gain with some of the practices and tools that we'll be digging into here soon, you might notice you're more prone to scattered thinking. You're having trouble staying focused and finishing one task before trying to juggle multiple. You might feel more subject to overwhelm, kind of spinning out, not sure where to begin, how to move forward, and so feeling stuck and immobilized. And perhaps you're feeling that constant urgency, and everyone else's priority or crisis is becoming your own, which only spreads you even more thinly and really saps all of the resources that you have left. So, taking on that constant urgency can be a really big pitfall of being in reactive mode. Fatigue, irritability, these are things that come along with feeling higher stress levels, especially chronic stress, which we'll define in just a minute here. Missing appointments, missing deadlines, canceling your meetings because you just can't make it, because you've overbooked, or because you just don't have the steam to get yourself there. And personally, this might not be something that anyone else is noticing, but you're feeling frustrated because your priorities are always getting bumped down the list. And this is really the problem. Once you slip into reactive mode and things start to feel beyond your control, your priorities are beyond your grasp. That's that spiral that I see people fall into, that slippery slope where it feels so hard to regain control. So, if you're feeling any of these or many of these, I invite you to give yourself grace. Get yourself a nice, refreshing beverage and listen in so I can help you feel more restored and balanced before the end of this episode. So, we need to first take a look at and untangle stress. We tend to think all stress is bad, and I think that's one of the first pitfalls we can fall into because there are benefits of stress. Stress is a powerful teacher and it helps to motivate us. And we are designed to handle acute stress. As we all know, that legendary tiger in the bush, that is an inciting incident, a singular stressor that causes a stress response, at which point we choose to take flight, to find safety, or to stay and fight, to defend ourselves from this threat. either of which helps us to complete the stress cycle. And this is what's so important. When we have acute stressors and we can complete the stress cycle, then we can recover. And that's what helps us build resilience, feeling confident and capable and able to meet stress in the future. Unfortunately, this modern lifestyle that we find ourselves in loves to serve stress up in every channel. It's coming in from work, it's coming in at home, it's coming in the bills in the mailbox, it's coming in any number of sources, right? I don't need to list them all. We're trying to resolve your stress right now. But you can see how this happens. We're constantly triggered with stress and we don't get to take flight. We don't get to resolve the situation at hand. We tend to keep packing on the load. We pack it on and we try to power through. So, what's so helpful then is recognizing that it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be a chronic burden of stress. And the reason we need to take action is because of these risks that come along with it. From chronic stress, we find ourselves more subject to struggling with burnout. Even the most, and even perhaps most especially, the successful people that we know, people who identify strongly with their professional success or through the quality of the work they are able to provide to others, can be more susceptible to burnout. Being under a constant burden of stress starts to roll over and impact our personal relationships. That irritability rarely gets served up to the source of the stress. It often kind of rolls downhill and unfortunately affects the safer places that we have, which may be our romantic and our family relationships. Whereas I've said they aren't the cause of the stress, but this is where we finally have that space, the capacity, that reactivity is unleashed. And that's where the impact is really felt, which I find one of the most heartbreaking impacts, even beyond what they're able to easily recognize. The physical complaints of stress are very familiar to us, right? Digestive complaints, insomnia, cardiovascular health issues, insulin resistance, which leads to type 2 diabetes. All of these come from being constantly triggered by stress, that chronic load. And so we really need to untangle to get perspective and see what's all on the playing field and then start teasing apart how we can break apart this chronic onslaught that we've been receiving and break it back down into acute situations so that we can manage them, right? So you feel more capable and in control. So, what are some reasons that reaction mode, reactivity keeps coming back to us? Often it's a habit. Much of what we do, because there are so many functions and operations our brains have to manage, the majority of what we do is managed by habit. It could be something that you saw your parents employ. It can be something you have found in your workplaces and those environments that you've been a part of there. Past conditioning. It's worked before to keep you safe. You put up those walls are defensive and it keeps people at bay. But is that really still helping you? These patterns that we can start to recognize, we can start to also see how they do not serve us. So we can also recognize that sometimes, especially for example, if you find yourself resenting situations, people who make requests of you, if you're resentful of the way things are at work, those office dynamics, or other things, it could be a sign that you feel your boundaries are not being respected. It could be that your boundaries are a little mushy and they're not where they should be in order to protect you and your personal space. It might be that some people have developed that pattern of not honoring your boundaries and you have found it difficult to maintain them. But that kind of resentment is a powerful indicator. It's an invitation to get curious and see, why is it that you are so reactive about this situation? And as we'll keep on exploring how you can start to shift that by reclaiming these boundaries, by reinforcing and placing that priority back on your personal well being instead of being subject to everything that everyone is asking of you. Sometimes we fall into these patterns of reactivity because it has worked for us before. Procrastination, struggling with deadlines, the pressure to perform. We see that it works, and so it becomes that pattern. We fall into that method of delivery. And so that can be harmful too. Just recognizing if you're kind of the person who runs on adrenaline and getting a little bit curious about why that is that you foster that habit, maybe where that habit was initiated, how long you've been working in that, reacting within that framework, and how is it really serving you? Is it really the way you're able to deliver your best work, to hand out your peak performance rather than being shaped by pressure? Sometimes we tend to feel like busyness all the time is leading to higher productivity. And I think it's important to recognize the difference between busyness and productivity. There's a story that I remember well from my theater history days of if you lock three monkeys in a room with typewriters, sooner or later you will be delivered Hamlet, right? Anybody could deliver a masterpiece given the right amount of time. It turns up by accident. And I feel like sometimes this myth of busyness is a really strong factor in our workplace. And we can have trouble giving ourselves permission to do the things that we know are going to leave us restored and the best resourced to deliver our finest work. Sometimes productivity is significantly stronger if we spend a lot less time at it. If we have endless time to be busy, then I believe that our quality can suffer because we're not identifying and protecting that time to take care of ourselves. And so, with that self care, with honoring our boundaries, protecting our peace, from that comes a higher level of work, a higher capacity for productivity. And so, with these exercises that we're about to dig into, I think that you'll start to see a powerful shift in what you're able to deliver, even if you're spending less time doing it. So, stick with me to see how we can prove this to be true. So, recognition is a powerful force, as I've already said. In order to shift from reaction to resilience, we need to start to see the triggers. What are the inciting incidents that put us into that reactive state? And how can we avoid getting stuck in reaction mode? Some of those signs, as I've already talked about, are irritability, fatigue from those aspects of stress that interrupt our regular cycles, struggling with brain fog and inability to focus, and that unending busyness that I've been telling you about. So, what are some ways we can start to shift that right away? Now, mindfulness is not perhaps the sexiest of tools. It is simple, even if it isn't easy. But mindfulness is a cornerstone in helping to resolve stress. Stress being the reaction that we have to stressful situations, right? We respond to stressors with stress of varying degrees. So when we recognize that, when we start being mindful that we are experiencing, we're feeling stressed, it's a perfect time to employ some mindfulness. This isn't go find a peaceful escape, sit for 45 minutes in the lotus position and seek bliss. This is feel your seat, sitting in your chair, connect with your breath, feel the temperature, the sensation of oxygen coming in through your nose and out through your nose. Bring your awareness from your breath to your feet on the floor, feeling your feet inside of your shoes or resting directly on the floor, feeling the balance of your toes, the ball of your foot, the roundness of your heel, bringing your awareness into your body and out of that buzzy headspace where it feels ephemeral and impossible to capture. Simply checking in through the course of 3 to 5 nice, slow, deep breaths, bringing your awareness into your body and your physical sensations is a powerful way of pausing that reactive state and helping you come back to center. From this place, then, and over time and building this mindfulness muscle, we are more easily able to call on it even in higher stress situations. So begin practicing mindfulness, not, as I said, finding that peaceful, blissful corner to escape into, but bring a moment of mindfulness into where you are in your workplace, as you're driving your car, keep your eyes open, as you are in conversation with someone. Bring your awareness to your breath, to your physical sensations when you feel your mind start to spiral and you start to flip the switch back into reactivity. As you build this ability to be mindful in any situation, this is what I see as the gate to a powerful practice I call the pause and pivot. This mindful pause gives you the opportunity to pivot as we recognize from this mindfulness, when we stop participating in that chaotic situation, we have the perspective to see where someone is coming from, what might be their motives, where we are reacting to, what are our emotions and responses to this situation that we are in. We can be curious with this sliver of opportunity that mindfulness opens up. And from this curiosity, then we can be more present to the situation that we want to create. And this is the pivot, the outcome that is in the highest and best good for everyone involved. How can our response help facilitate the best outcome? So, through mindfulness, we have these opportunities to pause and pivot, which I know you'll find a powerful practice. And again, it builds with time. A lot of times starting out, it's hard to remember to use these tools in the heat of the moment when we need them the most. And so as you practice over time, it's easier and easier to call on this and have this available to yourself. Another exercise that I come to time and time again is journaling. And we'll take another look at this later on in the conversation, but it's great to take a few moments to write down in your journal to build awareness of these triggers and our responses to these triggers, that reactive state. Just allow a stream of consciousness, or even if you want to call it a brain dump, when you feel triggered, write about that. Or on a day when you have been triggered, write and give yourself opportunity to explore that. Think about those triggers and get curious. Is there inciting incidents? As I was just saying with the pause and the pivot. Is there something in you, your preparation, your rest cycle, your nourishment that is not having you at the level where you're able to feel fully resourced and best able to respond? So, journaling provides powerful insights as we start to build this practice. You might want to keep a traditional journal, a book nearby, or just keep a document on your computer, available on your devices, where you can just let your thoughts flow freely onto the page, whether that's a physical or a digital page, and let that mental chatter be released from your mind so you have a little more space. You can free yourself from that extra weight. As you build your journaling practice, another powerful aspect or inquiry that I love to integrate is writing about what went well today. It's a very common kind of a saying, has been over the last few years, that bad experiences are like Velcro and good experiences are like Teflon. That's because stress is such a powerful teacher, as I've already said. And so we are wired to hold on to memories of stress, of difficult situations. Remembering the golden days, the easy days, isn't what has kept us alive until this moment. But we can apply neuroplasticity and train our brains to put more value in positive experiences. And we can remind ourselves of our capacity, our ability to be effective when we look back and we ask ourselves, what did I do well today? This over time builds confidence as well as training our brain to put value on these positive situations, these interactions, so that they stand out more for us and the good starts to match the bad in our recollections. We need this evidence of the good that we bring into the world, that is happening in the world, so we have faith in the best outcomes. So, in the moment's ongoing tools, there's a couple of starters for you in terms of shifting from that reactive state and frame over into responsiveness. Now, recognizing breaking yourself out of that firefighting model where all we're able to do is react to the highest crisis situations, which just leaves us feeling scattered and drained and overwhelmed, where we really can't be in our highest productivity. We need to begin to see, and this is where journaling can help. Having started this journal and sharing your thoughts, you can start to recognize what your triggers are, what made you more reactive, and then forecast what season is coming, what season you are in, what might make you more likely to be reactive so that you're prepared. Recognizing our triggers is essential, especially because then we're better able to apply our tools to remain balanced. So, some strategies to prepare you for these busy seasons to keep you out of overwhelm. First, aligning your values with your priorities is really important. I think it's easy to lose track of what our values are or have others' values superimposed over our own. And unfortunately, I see that really lead to some people who work so hard in pursuit of success and they reach those goals. And then looking back, they find they're not as happy as they believed they would be. And they really wonder if the sacrifices they made along the way were worth the reward. That's not where I want you to be. We need to be able to look at this along the way and be refining and staying true to our own course, our own inner compass. And what this really requires of us is being clear on what our values are, what is important to us. They might align with those of our workplace, with those of the people in our inner circles, and there might be differences. And it's important to find out ways to honor your own values where they are unique from the greater groups and efforts that we undertake, right? And when your values are aligned with your goals, and your priorities, then if you're coming into busy seasons, you find more resource available to you because it's something that you're passionate about. It's something that you care more deeply about. If you're not as connected with it, but it's demanding the same high output, the same high energetic delivery from you, it's a lot harder to maintain. So when you're aligned in your values and your goals, it's easier to make it through these seasons of high demand upon you. And when your values align with your goals and you have the clarity of the boundaries to protect yourself, your energy, your inner peace, then you have so much more to give. You're not already draining all of your resources. You're not pouring from an empty cup. It's a little easier for you to protect your peace, to have more of yourself to share. So, other tactics or practices that can help you move through these busy seasons that life is sure to bring your way. We aren't in the holidays yet, but pumpkins will soon give way to the holly days. Some practices work differently for different people, right? So you may or may not have benefited from meal planning and prepping meals on the weekend to make your week easier. That may or may not be something that's successful for you. Maybe it's more successful to find someone in your community who loves meal prepping and make an exchange with them so you can benefit from their preparation time and effort and keep your weekend time for relaxing and enjoying the people who light you up. Creativity counts here. Delegating things that don't have to be done by you is so powerful. Take a look around. Is there someone in your community who could benefit from helping you with the cleaning, the yard work? Teens in the neighborhood who could use some extra income, handling the grocery shopping so you don't have to head out and queue up. Maybe you generate your meal plan list and then you send it right over to Instacart, and then you just have to put the groceries away when they arrive a few hours later. What can you take off of your plate so that more of you is available for the things that you do enjoy, or simply so that you have more time for the self care practices that help you feel restored? It's up to you to make your well being a priority, because no one else is going to make a priority of that for you. So I'd love to see you give yourself the gift of control and of calm by better utilizing different methods of preparation, be that through delegation or simply planning and forecasting where these busy seasons are going to be coming around to you. And while we're talking about making time for yourself, I want to make sure we really dig into the important topic of recovery time. Those weekends, those evenings, those mornings before you go on duty for everyone else. We need these opportunities to rest so that we can show up and engage with our energy, our presence, and our fullest capacity. With recovery, you are able to boost your resilience. That is how the stress cycle was naturally designed. We meet that stress, we recover, and then we have more capacity to meet the next one. This is essential for avoiding burnout. It also helps you bring your better self to everything that you're doing. As I was saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. And even if it feels selfish to put yourself first, when you have more to give to your passions, to your projects, to your work, to your family, you will see the difference in those interactions and engagements when you are coming from a more centered, restored, and nourished place. So, how can you do this? How can you fit recovery in your already too tight, too stretched thin schedule? Don't underestimate the ability of micro recovery to help you bring yourself back into balance. A 10-minute power nap. Find a little space to lay down in your work area. Try to get your feet up, maybe onto the seat of a chair or up along a wall. 10 minutes is a powerful reset to help clear your mind, come through that afternoon slump, and turn out some powerful productivity. Getting outside to walk around, getting out of the office, any of those opportunities to stretch your legs, to get some oxygen moving, to straighten up from that desk posture is very, very healing. Finding opportunities to play. Indulge in hobbies not because you want to perfect them, but because they're fun for you. Embrace that process of learning and growing, and not only be judging yourself for turning in imperfect work, right? Look for hobbies that are fun, especially some that you can engage with friends or meet new people through the course. Fostering friendships where you can support others and cheer them on, where you can feel supported, are really important, especially for us women. We are tend and befriend kind of stress managers. And so when we have a community around us, we are much more easily able to transmute stress as it comes up. So, a little window of opportunity now and then for self care. It doesn't have to be a big chunk of time, and it doesn't have to be a big financial investment. What does self care look like for you? What helps you feel restored and refreshed? That could be a little dance break. That could be laughing, looking up some comedy videos on YouTube, on Instagram, now on TikTok. There are so many short, funny reels, and the more you look at them, the more they're going to be served up in your algorithm. So give yourself little comedy breaks without falling too far down that social media rabbit hole. Anything to boost your heart rate goes back to that whole recovery balance. The more we can get our blood moving and then come back to rest, the more resilience we are fostering in our body, the better able we are to tolerate stress when it shows up. Recovery is everything about resilience. Now, Look for something in that neighborhood of self-care that helps you feel pampered. If that's your jam, if you need to feel cared for, a little bit spoiled, what does that look like? Is that maybe keeping an appointment at the nail salon every couple of weeks or every other month? Is that an Epsom salt bath, which is deeply physically therapeutic? The magnesium in Epsom salts helps to physically release the tension in muscles by helping the muscle fibers slide more freely past each other. Physical stress can compromise your ability to handle emotional and professional stress. So, how can we care for our bodies in order to facilitate resilience? Not everybody likes a bubble bath. But I will tell you, if it is something that helps you come back into balance, don't skimp on yourself. Indulge in those a couple of times a week, and you'll sleep better, and you'll find it a lot easier to be responsive as opposed to reactive when situations are triggered. So, we've talked about some micro habits, daily things you can do, some practices to instill, like journaling, like mindful moments. We've talked about looking ahead and what to do to plan to prepare yourself for busy times. Now, how can you foster your resilience over time? Right? How can this be a part of your daily practice? I love to encourage people to start small so that you can find a sustainable growth. Whether that is exercise, as I said, getting your heart rate moving, getting outside, getting your feet on the ground, finding movement you can do with friends, team sports, or activities, or if mindfulness is something that works for you and you continue expanding that practice, the gratitude practice, writing one thing that went great today, three things you're grateful for, unique to every day. Track your consistency on a calendar and celebrate those wins. Help those habits be entrenched so that you have this to come back to. And don't make this another source of stress. If you're starting from zero, if you're not a meditator, but you want to incorporate more mindfulness, start out with a goal of meditation 3 times a week. Once you're easily able to maintain that goal, then step it up to 4 or 5 days a week. Give yourself doable margins rather than holding one more thing over your own head and expecting yourself to fall short, right? Give yourself grace in this process. And remember that these small changes are so much easier to maintain over time, and they really do add up to huge impacts down the line. As you find what works for you and you round out your personal resilience toolkit, look at other things you can incorporate. As you experiment with different self care practices, keep those available. Sometimes it's a whole weekend to go camping, to get out into nature, to connect with your family. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, like ordering a really beautiful, nutritious salad with fresh seasonal fruits and maybe a bit of cheese and some nuts and just something that's just a flavor explosion, right? Start to keep a list of the things that make you happy, from brief interludes to more intensive indulgences, and have those available when you're running short on steam, when you don't have time, when you know that you're reaching the end of your rope and you need to shore yourself up. Have this little list, have something in your toolbox you can refer to and say, oh, a silly comic movie would totally help me forget the day at work, get in a new mental space before I go to bed tonight, right? A beautiful, nourishing cup of herbal tea before bed will help calm my mind and help me sleep better. Look for these little ways you can support yourself that fit in anywhere, even in the midst of your daily life. One thing that I love to do is I have a happy music playlist that I have available so that when I really need to shift my energy, get the blood moving, feel energized, and come back refreshed for a task, I go to that playlist, I dance around the room for a little bit, shake the cobwebs loose, and I feel completely transformed and ready for what's next. That's my own personal pick. So, I'd love to know what from these ideas that we've been covering today stands out for you. Do you feel like these short interludes, bringing in 3 to 5 minutes of mindfulness during the midst of a workday, something that could be a big shift for you. If you give it a try, let me know how it goes. The gratitude practice, is it something that you've done before, but you're inspired to take up again? Let me know what you're ready to call in and how you're starting to make your shift. Recognize that even if we slip back into reactivity, it's not like you're stuck there, right? That's not the end of the game. You've always got opportunities to change your perspective. And it's all a learning experience. It's one more opportunity to uncover that trigger, to uncover what compromised your resilience, and be better prepared for it next time. So be gentle with yourself along this process and understand that it is about the journey, not the destination. And recruit a friend along the way. Is there somebody who you're able to share with when you feel stretched thin, when you feel like you're running on empty? Can they remind you of the things that you enjoy doing to support you? And can you do this for them? Sometimes when we're in the weeds, it's really hard to see how do we get out of it. So when we have a friend to call on, that's a powerful resource. I would love to be able to do that for you through coaching clients. It's been a gift to be able to connect with people, to help them see which of these tools works for them and how best to apply them to refine the processes. That's something that I love doing in my coaching relationships. If you'd like to join me on the show, I am always looking now for guests to join me in our Stress Buster Spotlight sessions. If you have one area of stress you've been feeling stuck in, if you're ready to shift the needle and lighten your load, let me know about it. That application now is linked also at happifiedlife.com. Join me on the show. Let me share my insights, strategies for your success, some tools that you can use, and let's shift the needle on stress in your life. I'd love to know what you got from the episode today. Share any questions that you have as well. I'll be happy to circle back and answer those. And thank you as always for your time, for joining me. I appreciate having you in my community, and I'm so grateful for you and all of the work that you do. Until next time, my friend, take good care of yourself, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening. You'll find all the resources we discussed today online at happifiedlife.com, along with links to subscribe to Happified on your favorite player and a handy search tool so you can search all of our previous episodes. Help us grow by leaving a quick review and share this episode with a friend. Until next time, keep on shining.